Good morning, everyone. I'm John Hayes, and I am the Titus Professor for Franchise Leadership at Palm Beach Atlantic University, which is the home of the Titus Center for Franchising. And we are pleased once again to sponsor and to bring together this Zoom franchise conference. All of our conferences do get posted at tituscenterforfranchising.com, usually by tomorrow. Actually later today, probably this one will be posted. We also post any slide presentations that were used. We will post those at tituscenterforfranchising.com as well. Today we are happy to bring you our guest experts. Shay Berman is the founder and president of Digital Resource, a full-service digital marketing agency based here in West Palm Beach. It's one of the fastest growing private companies in America, as ranked by Inc. magazine. Shay's doing a lot of work with franchise companies, and we'll tell you more about that as we go along. Brian Margolis, co-founder of Crank Enterprises, a venture marketing company. And during his tenure in the industry, Brian has managed millions of dollars in offline and digital media placement. And then we've also got Keith Gerson, who is no stranger to the franchise community. He brings 40 plus years of executive level expertise as a passionate and driven franchisor and franchisee. He's president of Fran Connect, works with more than 800 franchise brands. I also want to mention that all three of our guests are members of the Titus Center Advisory Board. I'm very happy about that, pleased about that. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that we can go right over to Shay Berman. And Shay, can you get your slides up there? Yes, and turn the floor over to you to start us off.
Perfect. Can we see them all right?
Yes.
All right, everyone. Again, my name is Shay Berman. Today I'm going to talk with you all about how to scale a franchise with Facebook ads. There's going to be a lot of great information, just kind of go through introduction, where we started, how we got into it, how we scaled, and how you could scale. And the biggest thing here today is how you can get a return on ad spend that's 6, 7, 8 times what you invest online.
Shay, to interject for a moment, Shay, we are emphasizing, we have a lot of franchisees on this conference, people who have not joined us before, and they are interested because we're talking about how they can reopen their business successfully. And we have you here, Shay, because you're helping some franchisees do that, and you're going to explain the process. Go ahead.
Exactly. And that's exactly what we've had to do through this pandemic. We've had to talk with all of our franchisees about how they're going to open their doors, make sure people are calm, know that it's okay to come through their doors, and really start advertising to bring in the leads that they need. So just to get right into it, and please, John, feel free to interrupt me. And if you have questions out there, StretchZone is one of our fantastic partners who's seen a lot of success from Facebook ads. And as a pioneer in the assisted stretching space, StretchZone has over 100 locations nationwide and is considering international expansion. But how did we start getting into the Facebook ads with StretchZone? In 2019, a single StretchZone franchisee partnered with us and helped raise awareness for a new location. We started generating new leads. Our team spent a considerable amount of time researching the service, the market, the competition, and analyzing the geo-target. But once we had all of the learnings organized, we were able to initiate our testing process. So where did we start? Here is the outline of our team's activity during the research and testing process. First, we conducted thorough brand research. This helped us get a clear understanding of the brand and what solution it provides. Next, we analyzed the competition in the local marketplace. This allowed us to analyze the competitors' strategies and make accurate assumptions on what was working best for them. Then we created a set of test audiences based on what we've learned in the brand and the competition research activities. With the audience identified, we then worked with our creative team to develop visuals and ad copy that would trigger our desired action. Finally, we took our campaign plan to market. With any new campaign, it's very important to quickly gather the data so that you can make optimized decisions and as soon as possible. So the research and testing process paid off. We were able to generate 166 leads at a cost per lead of $7.18. Since we were delivering leads directly into their CRM, we were able to discover that we generated $14,000 in gross revenue for the franchisee in the first 30 days. And you guys, again, this was back when we had one location. So there's a lot of testing going on, a lot of learning had to be done. This was brand new. And for you franchisees out there, you can take your individual location. You don't have to have the support of the franchisor to make your one location successful. So in our business, good news travels fast. Once other Stretch Zone franchisees got word of the formula, we partnered with other locations. And that's what I want to talk with you guys about today is that formula and how you can take the formula to your own businesses. So how do we scale? Well, it's a moving target. And when it comes to digital advertising, what worked well in month 1 may not work as well in month 6. It's important to make changes and optimize with that scale in mind all the time. So it is critical that you choose a digital marketing channel that serves your needs in terms of demographics, targeting parameters, and where users are in their intent to do business. And for Stretch Zone in this case, it was Facebook that's the best fit for the initiative because of its range of targeting, the cost efficiency of the campaigns, and the various advertising objectives that are available to us. So the first thing that you franchisees need to do out there is look at the campaign types. Facebook has 13 campaign objectives. It's easy to get confused about which is the best for your specific need, but each has its special purpose. So it's very important to choose the objective that's going to accomplish your goals the most cost-effective rate. For instance, if you want leads into your CRM, a brand awareness objective likely won't generate the best results. You would want to choose the lead generation objective. The lead generation objective in Facebook advertising is the most scalable way to generate the targeted leads and was the best fit for Stretch Zone at that time, and still is today. A lot of data is generated throughout the life of a Facebook ad campaign, and this data can teach you about what users like and dislike about your ads. A part of the scaling process for your franchise location or for your franchisees is going to be leveraging user insights to hone in on what makes users react. We learned that people who wanted to regain or maintain a high activity level were the most receptive to the ads, that had a clear and existing need for the service already. We also learned a lot about what people didn't want to see and who wasn't right by their reactions to the advertising as well. When scaling Facebook ads, you realize that each approach might be similar, but every geolocation is different. It's important to research the local market to understand the population density, the general, of course, the competition. So what you'll see on the right here is a screenshot of the local market for a Stretch Zone location in West Palm Beach, Florida. As you can see, there's 20 plus other locations, other businesses in the area, also offering assisted stretching. Being aware of the competition is the first step in beating them. You have to know that they're out there. You have to check their ads. And there's things within the Facebook ad platform called the Facebook ad library that allows us to go and see what our competitors are advertising. For example, we had another assisted stretching location that was a competitor to Stretch Zone that was advertising multiple free stretch sessions instead of one. So it was going to be tough to beat out that offer if we didn't know that offer was out there. So the Facebook ad library is a big, big tool that you guys can use when looking at competition. So crafting the messaging is so important. Impactful messaging is critical to scaling a successful campaign with any campaign. And keeping the previously identified ideal customer in mind, we created ads that outlined a problem solution narrative that positions Stretch Zone as the best solution for the end user. But automations is so important. So the final piece of the puzzle for Stretch Zone was automation. Essentially, automation is a series of tasks being completed by different apps, and it passes data from one place to another. We found success with gathering the lead data on Facebook, taking that, passing it to a live spreadsheet as a backup system, then delivering that data directly into their CRM. Then, once it hit the CRM, it triggered an email notification to the sales staff so that they could react quickly and get to that lead as soon as possible. Time is of the essence when you receive any lead, as I'm sure almost all of us know. So making sure that lead got right into the hands of the sales staff was so important, and the CRM played a big role in that. So there's a few critical elements to scaling. There's a lot of it here, but for the sake of time, these are the other things that we find success with. And of course, as Dr. Hayes mentioned, these slides will be available afterwards. So please feel free to come back to this and look into it. But what did we learn? And this is important because, guys, we spent 2 years learning all this with tens and tens and now over 100 locations. So let's talk about some of the lessons we learned along the way that I can teach you now that you don't have to step into and learn on your own. Number one, creative is key. You have less than 8 seconds to catch a user's attention. While audience targeting is important, your advertising creative is what captures the attention, stops the scroll, as the first step to generating leads with Facebook ads. Number two, test all variables. You don't know if something will perform unless you test it. You have to test different audiences, images, videos, text variations to develop campaigns that would predictably generate results with a few minor adjustments along the way. And budget waste is huge. Budget waste is when you spend advertising dollars on audiences or ads that are not performing well. Reducing budget waste and shaving off a few dollars in the overall cost per acquisition led to exponentially more leads for stretch zone locations. So if you see an ad set that's underperforming, cut it right away. Don't hope that that ad set will get better. It's an ad set that's underperforming, getting too high of a cost per lead, and it needs to be cut immediately to save those dollars for higher performing campaigns. We generated over 40,000 leads in 2019. It would be impossible to process that kind of data without automation. Intelligent automation is key to quicker response times and higher close rates. So if we were to generate those 40,000 leads and send just emails every time a lead came through, it would be impossible for Stretch Zone in this case to capitalize on all those leads. That's why automation and a CRM is so crucial to the success that we found here. Now, it's amazing what can happen when you partake in due diligence. You're open to learning, you leverage those lessons into campaign improvements. We were able to scale the success with single Stretch Zone location to 50 in just 1 year's time. And here's the fruits of our labor. With a total of $243,311 in combined spend across these 50 locations in 2019, our team generated 40,569 leads at a cost per lead of $6.84. This yielded $2.1 million in revenue, which represented an 8.6 times return on ad spend. And that's all I've got for us today, guys. I could get into a lot more details, but I don't want to take away from everything else. The long story short of all of this is that you can get between 5 and 8 times return on ad spend with Facebook ads pretty easily if you follow the steps that I mentioned, if you scale knowing when to cut budgets, when to cut campaigns, and know that you have to have the right creative to stop that scroll, the right targeting to make sure it's hitting the right person, and the CRM and the instant driving to the sales team to make sure they're being followed up on. So thank you guys for having me, and Dr. Hayes, take it away.
Great. Thank you, Shay. And by the way, the chat is open. You can post questions there. I'm going to begin with the first question for you, Shay. How long do you let a campaign play out before you call it a dud and pull it?
That's a great question. So as I mentioned in the slides there, if a campaign starts to go above a certain dollar amount where I will not pay above this dollar amount for a lead, you immediately want to cut that campaign. There's no waiting it out. So literally 24, 48 hours at most, but you should have multiple campaigns that are running so you could test against them.
Okay, great. And then what CRM does the Stretch Zone folks use?
That's a really great question. I don't have that on hand, but I can definitely get that back to you guys.
All right. Okay. We'll have some more questions for you. Another one, Shay, what's there are franchisees who maybe they don't have franchisor support at this point. They need to go on their own for whatever reason. Maybe the franchisor is not being very cooperative in some cases. We know they're not all created equally.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, if you're a franchisee out there and you need to do something to reopen your business, what's the first thing you're telling them to do? And let's say, other than call you and hire you, which is not a bad idea at all, but that's not what we're promoting. We want, how do we help the franchisee help themselves? What's the first thing they need to do?
First thing they need to do is figure out what their value add is. What can they offer online? It's a special offer. In the case of Stretch Zone, they're doing first time 30-minute free stretch. They need to get on Facebook ads. They need to go through the targeting parameters, find the demographic that they feel is going to be the best fit, and start running campaigns. Get those ad dollars in action, test different images, different words, different demographics across each other, and consistently watch that, because we, in this case, Facebook ads are and will continue to be the lifeline for the stretch zone locations. As the pandemic closed their doors and they needed to bring those leads, those new customers in, Facebook ads, getting on there, running them yourself is 100% possible if you watch them.
Okay. And how many franchise locations were involved, particularly at the time you posted the results screen? How many does that account for, franchise locations?
That was 50 locations in 2019, that results screen.
50 locations. Okay, great. All right, so we're going to come back to some more questions with you. Stand by. Let's go over to Brian, who's going to talk about messaging and what franchisees need to do and should not do, and helping this overall environment that we're all new to and how to adapt to it. Brian, what do you say?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having us. This is Brian from Crank Enterprises. And, one thing that is really just uncertain these days is the requirements that's kind of put upon our businesses, whether you're restaurants, retail, service providers. We are all faced with very difficult challenges every single day in how do we operate, how do we run our businesses, how do we attract people to us, and still comply with all of the guidelines and requirements that are being asked of us. Some of our businesses, I'm sure we have a diverse group of people on the line now, are being required to either restrict their hours, shut down completely. We're all having to get very creative in how we pivot in these very difficult times. While the challenges that we've faced over these past several months have changed and will basically continue to change over the next several months, one thing that is important is to really be in tune with how we communicate, how we position ourselves, and most importantly, how we identify with the people who we are ultimately talking to, our customer. But it goes beyond just the customer. We have to remember our employees, our partners, staff, all of the different audiences that you talk to every day in your business. You're going to have to really think about how you are positioning your business with each of those audiences. And it may be a different message. It may be a different message between your employees versus the message that goes out to your customer. It's probably rare to have a single set of messaging that goes out to all that will really resonate and stick with someone to make it a deciding factor, whether they do business with you or if they attend, participate or come to your brick and mortar if you have brick and mortar. So all of the above are things that we're going to be talking about today. Is really, again, what do we say to get people to return to your business, and how do we position yourself and your business during these difficult times? The first thing that I want to touch on is from a positioning standpoint. From a positioning standpoint, we have to be partners in our community. We have to show that we are all in this together and we are doing our parts to make it better, okay? It goes beyond our business. It goes beyond sales. It goes well beyond any kind of level of marketing that we've done in the past to drive that type of connection and that type of business. Right now, we have a great opportunity to be responsible business owners from the franchisee level to really show your community that you are participating, you're proactive, you're doing your part to do it right. Okay, to make a change and make things better. This is an opportunity for you to gain a loyal fan base, a loyal customer. Okay, it's very important to really be in tune with that. It's a turnoff to ignore the fact that there is a pandemic happening. It's a turnoff to go in and drive your sales focused initiatives first and really put marketing and sales above and beyond the safety of your audience, the safety of your staff, the safety of your brand, right? This is where good brands really find a happy home for themselves and really get to connect with their people. And how we act and what we say and how we position ourselves during these difficult times is what makes your brand even stronger in the long term. Okay. So will we get a negative impact in sales? I'm sure. Some industries are booming, of course. In the digital side, there's lots of opportunities for growth in this, but some, unfortunately, depending on the industry you're in, are really being impacted by this. But it's how we react and how we respond that will live on. Okay. So one thing to understand from a positioning standpoint, aside from just being proactive and participating and being transparent, is not just what you say, but what you do. You're giving someone the confidence that you are checking off all of those boxes that are required of you to safely operate, but it's beyond just checking boxes. You're being proactive and you're finding your tone and your voice and how you go about doing that. Okay. So you have to ask yourself, what are we doing to create a safe place? What are we doing to make it easy for our customers to engage with us? Some of the key messages, and these are things that we've used with some of our clients. And, I'll give you some examples here from Lazy Boy. We are a brick and mortar. Lazy Boy is a brick and mortar store. They sell furniture in person. It's a touch and feel product. Sure, you can buy the furniture online, but it's a different trade. A lot of people, they want to come in, they want to sit on the sofa, the recliner, they want to experience that. But it's also not a safe time necessarily. We have to, how do we communicate to them that they're welcome in? So some of the key messages that we use with them is, and it's kind of pivoting the operation. Private sales, private appointments, make it available to them to kind of come in a separate way and make it available to them that they can actually shop in a safe manner with distance, with proper procedures in place. Restricted hours, special hours, for different audience groups. You'll hear the terms of curbside, contactless. These are all the buzzwords that we're going to hear a lot more of. Contactless is going to be a long-term future of what we're dealing with here. How do we restrict the touch points of our sales? How do we restrict that face-to-face interaction while conducting business? Okay, and that's something that's going to be a little different per business. Each of you have your own brand, and each of you have your own tone. Okay, if you don't know what that tone is, that may be the first thing you want to ask yourself is, who is our brand? Now, granted, a lot of you are franchisees, so the hope is your franchisor has kind of figured that practice out for you, right? They're delivering some of that tone and that messaging for you to implement in your marketplace. But it's important to know that that tone, if it hasn't been revisited since the beginning of this pandemic, it may be time to really look in the mirror and see what is it that is communicating to our customers. What is it that we are communicating, and how are we communicating that to make them feel comfortable and safe? Okay? You really need to consider back to messaging to these vendors, contractors, your partners, all of that.
All right, let's go over to Keith right away then. Keith, you want to pick it up, and I'll try to contact Brian.
Happy to do so, and happy to say that I think that there were a lot of overlaps in a good way that he and I are both making some of the very same points, though I'll take it a little differently. For those of you with your videos on, can you nod if you're seeing my my PowerPoint deck? You okay? Great. Thank you. So I'm Keith Gerson. I wanted to say again that I've spent over 40 years. In fact, I'm embarrassed to tell you that it's probably closer to 50 than it is 40, But I have not only my own practical experience to bring into this, but more importantly, these are also the trends and the data that I'm looking at as it relates to over 800 brands that are using the Frank Connecta system today. Also, just to let you know that I have also been the company's CMO in addition to its president, and I have had marketing functions in other franchise brands as well as for those of you that are franchisees. Right on, brothers. I was also a franchisee. So with that in mind, let's go very quickly here. And I want to start with kind of the attitudes and perceptions of our prospective customers right now. This is from a very, very recent study done in mid-June by a company called Engagius. And you can go ahead and see that this was their Back to National Barometer study. So here I want to say that we are starting to see evidence that customers are out there. And I'm mentioning this right now, even though the numbers are not as great as we would like to see, the last thing you want to do from a marketing perspective is say the customers aren't there, let's rein in our spending. Now's the time, if anything, that you want to be doubling down on that. But we can see that 56% have started to venture out with retail visitations, et cetera, 29% eating at restaurants, et cetera. Again, just to give you kind of a quick snapshot here. But let's also, we focus a lot on COVID, but let's also take a moment and talk about social unrest and so the potential impact that that's also having on business. But it's also really interesting to see when it comes to social unrest, even though we see almost half of the respondents were saying that they're very concerned about the social issues that are going on right now in this country and worldwide, we find that a lot of it has to do almost 50% with concerns about the lack of mask wearing and that how these protests could just further, if you will, the wave and the increases that we're seeing now, along with the lack of social distancing during the protests. I mention this because this is still all about, for many, many people, it's the me aspect and concerns about my personal or my family's health and safety right now. But a lot of this is also not about me and my ability to control my environment, but it's concern about others' impact upon my environment, whatever that environment is. So we can see here that between May the 6th and then June the 17th, we see a decline in which we are saying that here less people have strictly stayed at home and practiced social distancing guidelines. And we also see here a dramatic drop from 46 to 31% in terms of people strictly following stay-at-home and social distancing guidelines in place in my area. So that means that this is really, really impacting who and how you're marketing at this point in time too. So who is your biggest competitor right now? Okay, a lot of you might be thinking about the fact that if you're in the pizza business, you're thinking of other pizza brands. If you're in the QSR, if you're in health and fitness, et cetera. But the truth is that your biggest competitor at this point in time is basically fear is one of the big ones, and confidence. It's fear and uncertainty that you're basically battling against. Now, I want to remind everybody that's on this call that the purpose of business is the making and the keeping of customers. That's a quote that was attributed to the godfather of American business, and that was Peter Drucker. I say this because even with one of the questions that's being raised, one of the main things that was brought out in a question that's online right now is, what do we do when I have so little time to go ahead and put into my marketing and advertising efforts? But if you change your perspective and you recognize that the whole purpose of this is to make and then to retain those customers, then you need to think about a lot of this is going to be that if you can't do it, you have to find a resource that's going to do it in your place. So who are the best customers to recruit? I'm going to be a little bit of a contrarian and say a lot of you came on here saying, how do I get more leads? How do I get more customers? The easiest customer to win is the one that you already have in your database. So this is a matter of going out and having marketing campaigns and the appropriate types of messaging that are geared towards people that have already been there. And believe it or not, it's also, as you can imagine, the least expensive lead that you can generate is one that's already in your database. So what's the table stakes here? Table stakes actually, you might think it's your product or services that you offer. Okay, and it is a table stake. That's what people think of when they think of your brand. But right now, I'm going to maintain that price is less of a factor, thinking that you're going to motivate people to come into your businesses on the basis of offering a BOGO, a buy one, get one, or some kind of a deep discount or giveaway, et cetera, is going to be no driver whatsoever if people are still wrestling with their fear and their uncertainty about going into your work environment, which is what Brian was also talking about here. So a couple of examples in terms of messaging that's found its way into marketing. I think Domino's was the first one I saw that was very impressive, with a video of the CEO and talking about contactless, not only contactless delivery, but the fact that the pizza goes directly from the oven into a box without ever having touched a human hand. And that was a big driver. My wife, who has been terrified of going and getting food, for example, all of a sudden was very comfortable with me ordering a Domino's pizza. I was talking with Mary Thompson, the Chief Operating Officer for Neighborly Brands. They have over 23 brands in their portfolio. They grow like a weed. They probably have 30 already. But Molly Maid, who was struggling and was the hardest hit of the brands within their portfolio initially, is, as it says here, they're a cleaning organization, a maid service, if you will, in the home. But they made dramatic strides and got incredible year-over-year improvements by repositioning and remessaging, instead of it being a cleaning and a maid service, that they were a company that disinfects the environment. It's the whole notion of moving to clean and healthy. Now, John had offered up, we were going to talk a little bit about cost per leads and what the most effective sources are at this moment in time. Right at the start of 2020, this was the breakdown of some of the most popular targeted areas for or channels of marketing, what the low costs were, the high costs and averages. So we can see events and trade shows are kind of off the table at this moment in time, though there are virtual ones that are taking place, and they can be a lot less expensive. But all of these, and you're going to get this slide deck, so I'm not going to belabor the point here. When you look at these, don't be as afraid of the cost of a lead as you are in terms of the cost per sale, and what it is and who it is that's converting within your arsenal here. Because some of you may look at it and say, well, hey, relatively speaking to leads, wouldn't I be better off staying clear of public relations and earned media with an average $294, second only to traditional advertising? And the fact is that we are seeing within our customer base right now, some of the highest conversion rates are those that have a strong public relations presence, et cetera. So I just want to leave these here for a moment for you to look at. Don't be as concerned about what the cost is here as in tracking and knowing what your conversions are and what your ultimate cost per sale was. Okay, so I'm going to go here and say, to my point, advertising you pay for, public relations you pray for. Now, this could mean working with a PR firm, but this could also mean the type of PR that you're able to generate within your own business, a lot of it coming directly from social proof. Now, let me tell you right now, there is no more effective means than star ratings and customer reviews and customers that are willing to go ahead and act upon their willingness to be able to sing your praises. And a lot of the praises isn't going to be just about how great your product and service was. A lot of it is also going to be around how cared for they felt like they were within your environment. And videos can be and are one of the most important and powerful ways to be able to get this message out. Now, we see so many CEOs right now of organizations have been writing these huge diatribes, these huge messages that, believe me, I can't hit the delete button fast enough, not because I wouldn't find value in what they have to say, but it's been like, I've been there, done that. I've read all of these before. They're always the same message, and I'm hitting the delay buttons. The most you can hope for right now is to have enough of a powerful and differentiated message to slow the hand down on its way to that delete button so they can understand that. And believe me, and Google Analytics bear this out as well, video is one of the most powerful mediums for getting there. But keep it real. Video could also mean just literally using your cell phone and interviewing a customer if you're a franchisee and you're somebody who's just thrilled with your services, et cetera. These things matter. Community involvement matters. right now more than ever. People want to know, again, if you're in the QSR segment, they love seeing that you are donating product, for example, to first responders, the doctors, the nurses, the people that are there on the front line. People will do business with people that they respect and that feels like that they share the same types of core values. Be concentrating right now on your loyalty program signups. And again, be monitoring social. I can tell you as a franchisor, I lost franchise deals over the absence of having social proof, over the absence of having not enough customers that were raving about our brand in whatever front that is. Okay, but whatever it is that you're doing, you want to be investing in traceable marketing right now. If you can't measure it, you're just stoking your ego. Okay, you've got to know what works. So in social, you can be monitoring your ad managers or your Google AdWords. You know, you can be assigning a special coupon in your direct mails to see which ones would work or how long it took for a customer to use it. And of course, putting in and embedding promo codes, et cetera, when you're in digital. Other things to consider, folks, I am getting upset at businesses today when I finally get up the courage to venture out and find that they have not updated their hours of operation. Or when I go out there and find that they have failed to mention that they have a limited menu or they're out of certain products because of supply chain. So folks, this is what you can do that's in your control right now. You want to basically claim your site, and you want to make sure that your listings are current and they're up to date. Your website needs to have the proper messaging right now. Again, if you're not open for business, make it front and center. If you are, make it front and center, because a lot of the time that people just aren't trusting what they're seeing online. So keep it current, keep it relevant. Again, you want to also respond to social posts right now, because negative word of mouth is 3 times more powerful than the positive word of mouth right now on digital. And social media marketing, we've had experts talk about that already this morning, such as Shay. But one of the things I want to talk about is you want and need to have a presence that is relevant, and you want to post with enough relevancy, but it can't all be about your business. Because when you're posting, it's just basically sending a message that says, hey, come on in and spend your money on me. It's not about them. Got to make it about them right now and give them relevancy and give them frequency in terms of don't have a post. I go out on some websites and it's been, months in some cases since anybody's even posted it, and invest in and use your CRM. Track your costs, keep your records up to date. And rule of 7, somebody had asked a question about when do you go ahead and pull a promotion. I want to tell you the rule in 7 in marketing parlances is basically saying that it takes between 7 and 12 touches before somebody finally starts really understanding and hearing your message. So a lot of people are bailing after just 2 or 3 attempts. It's not enough. You have to be consistent. You have to, before people are going to start recognizing it. So the critical importance of your CRM, make it clear in terms of what are the lead sources that are generating the most business? What are the lead sources that are actually producing the most profitable transactions for you today? A good CRM, you're going to be able to input that information directly into the CRM, or you could pull it in from your POS, your point of sale systems, et cetera. And what are the lead sources that generated the most expensive leads? And are they worth the added expense? Because at the end of the day, and I think that this was a point that Brian was also getting ready to make or made, which was starve the things that aren't working so you can feed the things that are. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, in other words. And this will be in the deck, so I'm not going to belabor this right now, but you need to absolutely, going back to what I was saying, you have to have enough marketing spend right now to be able to cut through the clutter. Don't cut back on your spending right now. In fact, I threw this in here. And by the way, these 3 steps are just the simple formulas so you can go ahead and create your marketing budget, how to calculate how many customers you're going to need, what your closing rates are for the number of leads that are required, and to establish what your marketing budget needs to be. But I wanted to throw this in here because I track a lot of data. Most franchisors are requiring across industries an average of a 1.7% local spend on the part of franchisees. It's actually pivoting between 1% and 2%. I don't know any, even though I'm saying here, 82% of franchisors, when I ask the follow-up question, is it enough? Okay, you can see that 82% of the franchisors don't think it is enough. Okay, and in QSR, they're spending closer to 5, 6%, even 10%. And if you're a new franchisee, first year in business, these guys are spending 20, 25% of revenues because the purpose of business is the making and keeping of customers. That's what I had to say with the allotted time. I hope that's beneficial. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
All right, Keith, that's great. And thank you. Stand by, because we do have Brian back, and I want to go back to that lazy boy story. But Keith, before we jump off your some of your information, which of the marketing channels that you showed us, which have the highest lead conversion rates?
So I am actually seeing for the first time in my history, and I put out an annual franchise sales index report, and it was true there, and it's true on the consumer side right now. I'm seeing more conversions that are coming off of social. It really, really surprised me. I'm seeing more that's coming off of Facebook and LinkedIn advertising that I've seen in the past. Email marketing is and will continue to be one of the most effective, but again, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. The ones that I'm seeing are having open and read rates in excess of 40%, have compelling subject lines, they have tight and concise messaging, and the messaging is on point in terms of reducing fear and uncertainty. Get out of that mindset that it has to be deep discounts. So those right off the bat are still tried and true mediums.
We're going to come back to some of this. We have a lot of, I see a lot of new names, and I know these are franchisees, and they are struggling, or they're confused, or they need help. And that's why we're here. That's part of what we want to talk about. So we'll come back to a couple of these points. But Brian, pick up, if you could do it kind of quickly for sake of time, on the Lazy Boy story.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry, we lost you earlier. I got bumped out, and just if you lose me again, I'll make sure that I feed some of this information over to you, John, and you can share with the attendees as well. But really quick, where I left off in talking about a Lazy Boy example, and this kind of goes beyond just the words that you use. It's also the visual of what you see in your brick and mortar, if you have brick and mortar, or even your service delivery in that regard. Keith was just touching on reducing fear and uncertainty and not necessarily having it all about sales. And that's kind of what I was touching on earlier earlier on the conversation. And I 100% agree. It is about reducing that fear and uncertainty, whether you're doing that through your email marketing, your social media, but then once you get into that interactive and they're walking up to you and they see you and engage with you, how do you continue to bring that type of feeling and message in your business? And so it goes from the very second that they walk up to your store and the visuals that they see in the signage, it's the exterior and the first thing that they see when upon entry. So you want to make sure you have clear signage upon entry. Lazy Boy has gone to the extreme of and this is for this group here, to make sure that when you walk in, you as you walk up to the building, you have all the proper signage that shows that they are obviously in tune with the current state and they're doing everything to protect their staff and their customers. Upon entry, the first thing that you see is a stand-up sign, Purell station, with the proper messaging and procedures. Second to that, it's also a punch list of things that they're doing every single day with their own staff prior to the staff coming into work, and making sure that the customer understands that there is a process in place and that they have put a lot of time and thought into running and conducting business in a safe manner. And then they've connected both the words and the visual all the way down to the scent. Okay. Upon entry, we have infusers that are really pumping out every periodically a scent of clean, right? It's a clean scent. Now, keep in mind, they are doing their proper cleaning procedures, but even when you clean, eventually, that entryway, you may not get that feeling of behind the surface what they're doing in the clean manner. So they're bringing it to life, right? So yes, they are in fact cleaning, doing everything that they need to do throughout the day, but they're also participating in the scent side of it and infusing that into their stores. So as you're walking, it's triggering that cleanliness, and you see the signage, you hear the messaging, and it kind of brings it all together to reduce that fear and uncertainty and make it known that you're in a safe place. Wearing the mask, doing all the proper procedures. These are all examples of what, you know, this is just an example of Lazy Boy, but we've seen it all in our own shopping experiences, right? There's a lot of things that you could be doing to just create that environment. And again, in the forefront, before you even get them to the store, it goes back to just being proactive, supportive, compassionate, understanding your target audience, understanding your different audiences, and making sure that your messaging is spot on for each of those different audiences. And so when they do arrive, they get to kind of expect already what procedures you have in place. You've communicated up front through your email marketing, you've communicated it through social media, you've communicated in all of your advertising efforts. And then when they walk up and engage with you, you're not just communicating it, you're showing it. And they can see it, they can smell it, and they can appreciate it.
Okay, Brian, that's great information. We are running a little bit behind, so we need to pick up a couple of things. There was a question about video, using video, and I'd like to go back, Shay and Brian both, because I know you work with video. Video Bolt is one of our advisory board members at the Titus Center. Corey Sabin, I didn't see him on this call, but I know that United Franchise Group, and I know that Keith over at TBC Corporation work with Video Bolt and are using video in their messaging. So what do you guys see that's important there? Shay, what's happening with your clients in video?
Yeah, anytime you can get video, especially with real people in it, it's one of the highest performing ad sets usually. You know, we always tell our clients, you know, stock images, great. Sometimes you got to have them, but if you put real people in that, it's even better. And then one step further, which is the best, is real people in a video. So to your point on video, whoever asked, if you can get great video creative, do it. And sometimes it doesn't even have to be professionally done. Off the cuff iPhone shot videos can do extremely well because they seem natural.
Yeah, Brian, you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I think Shay brought up very good points, and to kind of piggyback off of that, from a video perspective, you also have to remember that as franchisees, you're on the ground, you're in the community. And so using real people and using, let's say, homegrown production becomes more raw, real, and something that people can connect to. It's a great way for you to get all of your messaging and your tone in a way that is visually representative. People aren't necessarily reading a lot these days. They're, you know, wanting the quick hits. So just make sure whoever you do put on camera, make sure that they are presentable, make sure that they represent your brand, represent your tone, your voice, and certainly make sure you pay attention to where and how you're using it.
And sometimes the best person to do that is the franchisee, you know, the person who owns the business and is responsible for it. And some people can do this on their own. They're skilled enough that they can figure out how to get a quick video, no more than a minute, particularly on social media, to represent their brand. And I will go back and emphasize that a Video Bolt would be a good place because it's low cost, and I can help you with that. If you are stuck on video and you need to use video, then let me tell you about talking to Corey over at Video Bolt. I think that would make good sense. I know Transworld Business Advisors, they are on this call as well. I've seen their results when they posted on social just using text compared to when they did it with a video. The numbers were, the video blows out the number of leads and the number of people who view that message. So I think if you're not doing video, particularly on digital media, on social media, then this is a mistake. Now this goes to probably the key question for so many. And I have a heart for franchisees. I've been a franchisee in my past as well. So the question is, if we're not skilled advertising experts, and franchisees are not, and who has the time to do it? We've got limited time to devote to advertising activities. What are our options is one of the questions that we've had. So all three of you can comment on that. What do you suggest that they do, particularly at a time when people are afraid to spend money and not knowing where to spend it?
I'll take that one.
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
I think it's number one. It's important to know what's an acceptable budget, and I apologize because I should have addressed that before. But I think when using social media advertising, we found with our franchisees, even outside Stretch Zone, about $1,000 to $1,500 per month in ad spend is about typical, and it is affordable if it's producing those results. And this is not a sales pitch at all. I'm sure our colleagues on here will all agree that if it's best if you have that time to use your time to advertise. But if you don't, you have to vet the right marketing company. Whether it's one of us or up here or somewhere else, you got to vet them, ask them the right questions, know what questions to ask them for case studies, who are they working with, who do they know, and make sure that they've seen success in an arena similar to yours in the past.
Great.
Just also to add to that, with the talking to on the franchisee level, I think it's also very important to understand that you have a geographic range. You have a certain area that you are primarily focused on. So yes, I do agree with Shay. If you don't have the skill set or the ability to manage your own advertising, there are partners that are available that you can team up with, such as Shay, such as myself, such as Keith, and other professionals. And you do want to vet them and identify who's best for you. But what's important to know is that you have a very strong geographic focus. So find that scope of work of what areas you're most weak in and find where you need to fill those gaps and identify with those partners which can bring that scope of work to the table that perhaps you are missing, and make sure that it's their job to understand your business, and it's their job to understand your audience and your geographic reach, because all of that plays in together beyond just even a digital strategy, but some of the community partnerships and grassroots efforts and all of the connecting dots that can drive business into your doors.
And if I can add, yeah, I was a little bit of a contrarian the first time because I said the purpose of business is the making and keeping of customers. So when someone says I can only spend just a very little part of my time, I would go back, I would still look at the breakdown of where and how that time is being spent. Now, part of this is the purposeful choice of the word advertising. And I might think more in more digital and more of a marketing perspective. An effective CRM can really, really do a lot for you because you can automate the workflow and you can automate so many of the processes of keeping nurturing campaigns going and sending out stuff that is specific and situational to different segments of customers. So you can just literally set it and forget it. Now, I'm going to say for those of you that are franchisees, talk with whoever it is your franchise business consultant on the franchisor side, and ask them what it is that they might have as it relates to campaigns that you can go ahead and utilize. But I also do agree with Brian and Shay. If you don't have that expertise, if you're frightened by that, then either go find somebody, and I don't want to be short-sighted in saying, I know that some of you are probably thinking your sales are down significantly at this point in time, and some of you may not even be open for business. And maybe that just doesn't seem very realistic or pragmatic. But there are things that you can do, and sometimes, again, it could be just a community event that people just knowing that your heart's in the right place and you're doing the right things can be more powerful than anything you can possibly imagine, opposed to advertising. So be of support, be of service, don't sell.
Keith, I'm going to pitch this question to you. 3/4 of franchisees are not using a CRM. And those who know what it is, not many. And then they're going to think, well, it's out of my budget. I can't use a CRM. I don't know how. I don't have the money. It's not necessary. What do you say to that?
I think that's akin to saying I'm going to go see a doctor who doesn't have a stethoscope and just wants to immediately start prescribing to me without even knowing what's wrong with me. You really, really need a data-driven strategy for marketing. That's not for the faint of heart. You really need to know the numbers, because a lot of folks right now are flushing dollars down the toilet because they don't really know what works. And that's what I would say. You can't afford not to have a CRM. And if you're saying, I don't know how, again, I'm assuming you're in franchising, ask your franchisor for help, ask for a recommendation. And I don't want to be sacrilegious to my own company. We got a killer CRM, but there's actually CRMs that are out there that are free. They may not have some of the capabilities that we're talking about, but you know what? A lot of money is being flushed down the toilet because you're marketing to people that don't need the message at this point in time. And great marketers know that there's a thing called frequency and recency and monetary spending. So what that means is, if I know that you come in every 4 weeks like clockwork, I'm not going to spend a dime marketing on you until you break that purchase cycle, recency of, and now it's been four weeks and 2 days. Now's the time for me to market to you. So I'm just trying to say that you can't afford not to have a good CRM once you set it up or have it set up correctly for you.
And can franchisees come to you directly? Is it only a franchisor who is a client of FranConnect, or can a franchisee put her hand up and say, hey, I need a CRM, and how can I work with FranConnect?
Well, that's a fair and a great question. So even though we have over 150,000 franchisees that are using our tools and technologies, it's made possible because we enter into a direct relationship with the franchisor, and those franchisors typically have technology fees or marketing fees that they're collecting that allow them to be able to make these purchases that make it way more affordable than you can do it on your own anyway. So not directly, but make sure you have a talk with whoever it is that's on your franchise advisory council, and encourage them to really talk about the importance, need, and desire for a CRM.
And if my franchisor isn't helpful, doesn't want to do it, where do you suggest I go?
Well,
as a franchisee.
On the airplanes, they say in an unlikely event of the loss of cabin pressure, put the mask on yourself first before you render assistance to anybody else. I'm saying, take a little bit of time to get some expertise. I'm telling you, you could spend 30 minutes on a Google search right now on what is a CRM, best practices in CRM, and you'd probably know quite a bit because there's a lot of combined expertise out there. And again, if your company doesn't provide one, then I think it's upon you that you should go look for one, while at the same time looking out for your brethren and your sisters by saying, you know, we really need one. And that's why I said mention it to a franchise advisory council.
Brian, you want to add to that? Did I see your hand, or can I go to the next question?
Next question.
Shay, there's a question on how are you helping your clients manage the Stop the Hate for Profit campaign against Facebook platforms?
Yeah, my colleagues up here might have a different idea on that, but from what we're seeing on a small local business, and even on the franchise level, when we're looking at franchisees in their different locales, they're not getting attacked by this group so much that's going after it. Most of the time what we're seeing is, you know, if you're Procter & Gamble's and all the brands that they have this group seeking out their advertisements online, putting messages on it, attacking them. So on the mom and pop level, even on the franchisee level, which is, you know, still mom and pop, it's not getting those attacks. We're seeing absolutely no messaging on their Facebook ads talking about this. They're getting nothing in their stores. They're getting no complaints. At least that's what we're seeing from our, you know, couple hundred franchisees.
And I might add that, you know, there's more than just Facebook too. I mean, you should have a great Instagram account. There's other social media mediums that are very effective.
Yeah, great. All right, well, next week, our conference continues on lead generation, but we're targeting to the franchisor, best franchisee development lead generation strategies for the COVID-19 era. That's Tuesday, July 14 at 11:30 a.m. also on Zoom. We will be promoting that to you during this coming week and into next week. We have some other conferences coming up as well, including our new franchise hot seat that we are introducing, where we're going to give emerging franchisors an opportunity to speak about their business and to look for funding and to look for partners and to look for advice from our franchise dream team, which we'll be announcing to you very shortly. That's all going to be done on Zoom as well. So that's what's coming from the Titus Center at Palm Beach Atlantic University in West Palm Beach, Florida. We are educating the future generation for franchising, and we'd like to be of service to you in any way that we can. At TitusCenterForFranchising.com, you will find this conference along with our other conferences. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you to our panelists. You all did a great job. Thank you, CEO Ross, for your applause.
Thank you for having us, Dr. Hayes.
Thank you all for joining us. Take care. Bye-bye.